Hello friends, and welcome back to In the Studio with Ophelia. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about a product that honestly I think I've been kind of sleeping on. I knew it existed, but I did not really know what I could do with it until I started playing around. And that is the New York Central Waterproof India ink. Now this ink is available in a couple of different sizes. I have the 16 ounce and the 1 ounce. And I'm going to be using a variety of products like the flower palette, a couple of watercolor brushes, a pipette, a dip pen, a water bottle or a water little container. I've got a smaller one and that I'm going to make to carry with me to work. And then I also have another one that's a little bit bigger. I like this one a lot because it's got an airtight seal, and I found these at my local art supply store, but for today I'm just going to use this tinier one just to take with me to work. I also have this water brush that would be great for taking it on the go, and some watercolor paper. Once I started playing around with this ink, I found that it is truly invaluable in your studio. It is a matte black, just velvety India ink that is waterproof. And of course, you can water it down to create beautiful value studies in your work or just quick expressive drawing. But today I just wanted to show you guys a couple of different ways that I've enjoyed using this ink, which is, I guess, a bit non-traditional. So here I'm just creating some value scales with the ink. It just lays down beautifully on paper. It's just rich and black and opaque and just intense for just adding like incredible wow to your artwork. But so here I'm just creating like some value scales with it. And what I want to show you is once you water it down or add water to it, you can get just the most beautiful shades of gray. What I'm doing now is I've got my small jar. I've got some, it's distilled water. Just trying to get like a certain shade of gray that's like a light gray. So I'm just using that pipette and like adding a drop or so at the time, and that's pretty light that I just swatched out. So I just kind of keep adding drops of ink until I get it to the correct shade. I just kept going, adding a drop at a time until I found the perfect shade of gray that I was after. Once you play around and get it to the correct shade that you're after, now it's just time to play. I have a bottle or an empty bottle of ink that I also keep a darker shade of this diluted ink in. Now, right out of the bottle, you can certainly use this to create value scales. I actually love using it to just make painted papers with just bold, rich lines of color and marks. This ink is just so versatile with what you can do with it. And so I love to use it to just make marks on paper whenever I'm creating painted papers. I use just like a small round watercolor brush or a small flat brush to be able to just make a variety of marks on papers to then create my own painted papers. This ink is of course ideal for calligraphy, it's ideal for illustrations, but it truly is so versatile and there's so much more you can do with it. So on white paper and dictionary paper, these are the patterns that I've created, and I just love using it for that one. Another thing that I love to do, of course, is I can put my diluted ink in a travel, one of those water brush pens, and then you can kind of take it on the go with you to be able to do all sorts of things if you're drawing, or for me, I just love adding color to backgrounds and such like that. Now, with my collage, another way that I love to use this ink is if there's an image of or something that I want to use, but I don't necessarily want to, say, fussy cut around areas, I will just take an image that I have and kind of roughly cut it out, and then I will glue it into my sketchbook or however it is that I want to use it, and then I will take my diluted ink and just kind of marry everything into the background. So here I'm just kind of gluing these random pieces down in my sketchbook, and then I'll use this diluted ink to just give everything like a cohesive feel where you're not looking at chunky bits that are not cut out evenly, but just kind of, I love to take it into my sketchbook pages and just create like washes of color on my backgrounds. Now, you can tell that this ink works beautifully with paintbrushes, with dip pens, technical pens. It's an incredible ink. And here I'm showing you some examples of how I've used it in my sketchbooks before. But again, the possibilities are just endless. One thing that's great to keep in mind is that the ink is light fast and archival, and it's definitely permanent. So once it's dry, even if you get it wet, for instance, going over collage with when I've put it down in my sketchbook, if I go over it with paint, it's not going to smudge or run or anything like that. Another thing that I love to use this diluted ink for is just creating beautiful washes of color with my watercolor paints. So here I've just taken like an alizarin or a rose red type color from my Lukas watercolor palette, or a blue, or any of your colors, and I'm just creating washes of color and then using that diluted ink to just make beautiful backgrounds that I can use in my sketchbook, or just playing around. When I say the sky is the limit here, it truly is. Your imagination is the only thing. So now I'm going to use this ink when I'm creating like just a tiny little painting, and in the end here you'll see where I'm going to use my dip pen. I love using it diluted so that it's not as stark or harsh, because this really is an intense black ink created that way for a purpose. But I just love to use it in a variety of ways where it's I can use it in its true form, but then also in its diluted form I can use it in my artwork where it just kind of blends everything together, and it's not like a harsh dark line in my work when I'm just creating something. So here I'm just taking some watercolor and I'm just making some random flower shapes, and I'm just gonna kind of create in my own little way some abstracty watercolor flowers. And I love using this ink, of course, to, like with that green, I can just use it in its diluted state to kind of tone down that green slightly, to add to the base of the flowers, and then to use for my stems. But then I'm also going to use the ink in its diluted form in the dip pen to go around the edge of the flowers, just to kind of draw an outline. Whenever I'm using it with my brushes or even my dip pen, you know, you can use water to be able to clean it out, but in my brushes, of course, I will use the, like, some sort of brush soap to clean it, to clean my brushes out well. Here, I'm using the diluted ink to, with my watercolors, to kind of tone down vibrant watercolors if I want to use them in washes, and you can make just the most beautiful washes of color ever. I love this ink just for its versatility, and it's an incredible addition to your art supply arsenal. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope that you will try this ink on your own, and I'll see you next time. Bye.